Get free tech advice for your business from O2 Gurus. Search O2 Business for more. Hey guys, welcome to BTech. It's Basil here, 24 hours into using the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge as my primary phone. Here is my very preliminary early hands-on review. You can check back in a week for our full review after we test everything out more thoroughly. But here is, well, what I think of it after I've customized it to the nines. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, the Galaxy S6 Edge is really making waves because it's a Galaxy S6 but with a curved display, both sides, a curved OLED display. We've seen curved tech before, the Samsung Galaxy Note Edge for example, but this is the first time we've seen it on a publicly available device on both sides like this. And of course this is a flagship device alongside the S6, so it's going to be widely available, mass market. This really is an interesting one. What can we say about it? Well, design wise, yesterday we were like, oh, this is amazing, this feels great. It's a bit sharp in the hand, but you know, it looks amazing and it looks really kind of futuristic. Yeah, exactly. 24 hours in and the whole impression hasn't faded. We really like, every time we get this out of our pocket, we're just like, oh, this actually just feels really different to any other smartphone. And that's not a bad thing. The sides are sharp. You can see if we bring it closer into camera, there's an almost indentation to the back, so it kind of angles this way, but it gives you something to hold on to. The sharpness actually gives you, again, something to hold on to. It does feel like it could slip, but then you've got those buttons to kind of like act as stop gaps, so you're not going to drop this thing very easily. The fact it is sharp also means you've got a decent grip when shaking it upside down. To give you an idea of the key design highlights, you've got a 5.1-inch display on the front. That home button doubles up as a fingerprint scanner, and it works because it's not a swipe fingerprint scanner, it's a iPhone-esque tap fingerprint scanner. You've got two capacitive buttons, multitasking, and a back button, pull down bar from the top, and it's just a one-stage pull down bar. This, yeah, really feels good. The curved glass feels rich, comfortable to swipe across. It's expensive, it feels expensive, and yeah, it is very expensive. It's more expensive than an iPhone, so instantly it has this premium attached to it, but you are getting something with the Galaxy S6 Edge that you can't get on any other device. And that's a metal-bodied, premium-feeling, curved screen phone that looks like, yeah, looks like a phone of 2015, 2016, as opposed to a phone of 2013, 2014. Around the back, very flat backing, and almost identical backing to the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge, and you've got a 16-megapixel camera, protruding lens worth noting, and a fingerprint scanner as well as a flash. The whole thing just comes together beautifully. As for that display, it's a 5.1-inch Quad HD Super AMOLED panel. Can bring it closer and swipe through the user interface. You can see I've customized everything. We've got the applications tray. It looks glorious. Colors pop really beautifully. Deep dark blacks. You've got a range of viewing modes as well. If we jump into display, we can actually control the screen mode. So adaptive is it's going to make the decisions for you. You've got AMOLED cinema for some nice punch and pop, AMOLED photo for something a little bit more subdued, a little bit more realistic, and you've got basic, which is a basic color profile that is akin to, I guess, LCD displays, but adaptive display tends to make the right decisions and give you a nice punchy picture, especially with the user interface. User interfaces always look better when they pop a little bit, and indeed this definitely does. It also interacts well because when you're swiping in, there's something really nice about swiping in from a curve as opposed to a corner. One thing that we will say that is not necessarily brilliant is the fact that if you're resting on the curved screen, for example, and you come into pinch or you rest in and then you want to swipe, because you're resting, it kind of sometimes acts as a pinch because the side of the screen and the curve is a comfortable place for your thumb to rest on. That really is our only gripe with that curve, that sometimes your thumb will rest on it and it will register your thumb. It would be interesting to see if Samsung could have tech that deregistered your thumb if it was just leaning on the side for a second or more. Maybe that'll come down the line, maybe not. It isn't a deal breaker by any means though. As far as that display goes, Eagle Eyes may have spotted that we were going to pull up a color chart. It pulls up very beautiful, vibrant colors, understandably, and also if we bring that closer into frame, I can tell you I can make out between 2 and 3%. It is on max brightness, and with LCDs, most LCDs I can make out between 1 and 2%. So the depth of the black is very, very deep. 2 to 3 is where I can comfortably make out. So at the very, very dark levels, you may not be able to make out too much differentiation. So if you're watching a dark movie, it might look a little bit all black really, but that's again a really nice thing if you're watching atmospheric movies, because the dark colors won't be throwing a lot of light in your eyes, so it will create that extra atmosphere. Ultimately, it is a beautiful, beautiful display, incredibly sharp and very, very future-proof, because you're not going to get anything higher resolution than this. In fact, you can't make out a pixel on a 441 pixel per inch display, so 557, you're absolutely laughing. Like we said, it's future-proof in terms of the screen tech. The design, the thing is, it looks kind of like of an age of a kind of future Star Trek-y age. The iPhone is timeless. The Sony Xperia Z3 is timeless. HTC's making the HTC One timeless. How well will this age? Well, honestly, I don't know, but right now it kind of feels better than anything I've ever used before, just because it is so different, it feels so rich in the hand, and it also works really well. So 24 hours in, what do I think of the user interface? Well, it's TouchWiz, and I have historically had major issues with TouchWiz. On the one hand, I love elements it adds. It gives you Galaxy gifts, so you get some stuff out of the box. The S Pen, when you have a Note 4, is just mind-blowingly good, but it slows down so much. It integrates Dropbox and clogs up your memory by downloading. Anyway, loads and loads of stuff happens when you have TouchWiz, which just makes the whole experience that bit less brilliant than it really should be. Thankfully, Samsung's addressed pretty much everything there. It's a whole lot lighter. They don't have the hover over thing on this anymore. You pull down, you have no two-stage notification quick toggles. If we tap edit, you can see you have Smart Stay that kept an eye on you when you were looking at the screen, but there aren't any of the other really gratuitous kind of we're gonna use all the sensors on your phone just for the sake of it tech. So that's really interesting. One thing that Samsung has done with the UI, you can maybe see Max, the cat in the background, moves around. It's kind of like an iPhone, that parallax kind of viewing when you have it tilts from side to side, and that looks really cool. It gives a sense of dimension, and it's on the on the Samsung Galaxy S6 and S6 Edge, but it really does work better on the S6 Edge based on the fact that that curve adds that three-dimensional pop, adds a superficiality to the screen, and that parallax movement really does enhance that. So yeah, we've got these home screens. You can add, remove home screens. You can arrange your applications into shortcuts of applications or indeed folders, and you can drop big widgets on here. Samsung has the best calendar widget around, S Planner, because you can see stuff instantly. There's no need to jump into a date in order to gauge what meetings you have. What's nice is, even though all this text is very small, it's very sharp, so it's easy to read as long as you have half decent eyesight. If we swipe across, you can see Flipboard briefing is there, so Flipboard briefing is off. So that's one thing that's nice, that you can switch it off, because it's really annoying. It's virtually useless for me, to be honest. So if I tap through on it, you can see what I mean. Sure, it gives me news, and that is useful to a degree, but tap through on it and I want to swipe back, it just slows down the whole experience. And with the user interface now feeling so much less laggy than TouchWiz of old, I don't want to be lumbered with that experience right there. So maybe one day they'll get rid of it. Either way, I don't really care too much, because I can switch that off. So like I said, pull down, you've got your quick toggles up there. You can jump straight through to the settings, and this is something that they've retained from the Samsung Galaxy S5. Probably the best thing about the Samsung Galaxy S5 in terms of innovation was introducing these more elegant settings menus. So you have quick settings up at the top that you can customize, and this is great. You can, for example, quickly access things like display, which is something that we always do, and you have more advanced settings, and they're all icon heavy as well, which is really nice. As far as applications go, you can see you can customize that into your single applications or indeed folders. Again, a really nice user interface. Really like what Samsung has done, jumping into that applications tray and tapping into tools, and you can see Samsung doesn't throw throw too much bloatware on here by any means. It gives you the option to download a little bit more bloatware, but you don't have to, which is great. As far as the performance goes in terms of how smooth it's been, really smooth so far, no complaints, and we've done some gaming. We'll come on to that in a second. As for pressing the multi-window tab, you can see once I press multi-window, I can find another application to multi-window it with, and I'll tap on YouTube and we can have gallery, swipe through to that picture of Max while also playing video about me talking about a Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge probably. So it's all a little bit meta. Not working, but that probably comes down to the internet connection more than anything. We can jump out of that and we can swipe out, tap through again, and there you go. So all again works really well. We've seen multi-window many times before, so it's nothing new. As for how that affects performance down the line after a week, we will definitely let you know. But yeah, it's really nice to be able to have that big screen on there. If we were to move on to elements of the user interface that we don't like so much, themes, not because there's anything wrong with them. In fact, some of the themes look very cool, so we can apply Vintage Cafe. And this will sadly get rid of the picture of Jasper and Max, the cat, in our lock screen and home screen, so we'll have to reset them. But it'll give you an idea as to just how comprehensive even the themes are. So you can see they've completely redrawn all the icons so that it is all in theme with this Vintage Cafe. Now, our biggest bugbear with the themes is the fact that these are Koreified. They have not been internationalized. So if, for example, you take a look at this, Lovely Girls, that's maybe a little bit sexist, maybe, but that's not even the worst one. This one is called Throbbing Spring. That's just slightly wrong. So these kind of need to get internationalized for English-speaking markets pretty soon, considering this device is on general release. Also, given the fact that it's on general release, there aren't many themes out there. HTC has done a much better job of getting loads of themes on there for launch, as has Huawei, but Huawei has a history of themes. So as far as the themes go, it's a weak selection and a weak offering, but at the same time, the fact you can install new themes is pretty great. We just don't like any of the ones there, but that'll change. That's pretty much it for the UI. Little else to cover on that. The design, like we said, Ace UI is much improved. Now on to the multimedia and the camera. First impressions of the camera are really positive. One thing is it will take a picture without focusing in order to take a picture quickly, but it focuses quickly, it takes a picture quickly. There's very little we have to grump about the camera. Also, if you jump into mode, you can jump into pro mode and you can adjust the focus from manual focus right through to infinite focus. It's really awesome. You can leave it at auto. You can also adjust ISO, so you can keep everything at 100 so that you get as little noise as possible, and it will correct the shutter speed accordingly. So we would have probably been at 100 ISO anyway because we were so bright here, but you can see instantly that's a very handsome picture. The optical image stabilization will keep everything else nice and still. What's also great is that you can control exposure, but you can't control shutter speed. So while you can get macro objects in and everything like that, you can't get light trails or really long exposures, which HTC cameras, for example, you can do. So that's one area the 1M9 camera will definitely edge ahead. And it's fundamental to manual controls, being able to shoot, customizing your shutter speed. You have selective focus as well, panorama, slow-mo, blah, and you can download more shots. Just like with themes though, the additional download modes for the camera are really quite meh. They're not like that big a deal. So it would probably be worthwhile Samsung investing a bit of time in two main areas, being themes and camera modes. Ultimately though, we think automatic mode is just so good. This could actually be the best automatic mode on any camera phone. It's exactly the same as on the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge. So 16 megapixels, f1.9 aperture, gets loads of detail. The flash is decent. It acts really nicely as a fill flash as well. As far as other multimedia goes, we did play games on this. We played Final Fantasy on it a fair bit. You can see we installed a load of games. And we played some faster paced games, and what's really nice is the fact that Dragon Quest VIII slows down on pretty much every device we've used. On the Nexus 6 it's really stuttery, and we assumed it was that Quad HD display. On this thing it's actually pretty smooth. It's the smoothest we've ever seen it, and for that to be on a Quad HD display is really impressive. So that speaks volumes of the Exynos processor, and it didn't get too warm. Again, something really nice. We didn't find that screen impeded being curved on the gaming performance again. In fact, it's just really nice. It adds that sense of depth, pushes everything forward a little bit. It's a very mild kind of curve, so there's not that bigger curve there. If we bring it closer, you can see it really does just kind of like, if we jump out of there and jump to the home screen so it's lighter, it really does just edge ever so slightly. We can pull icons out and you can see that's where it curves, as the Y from gallery kind of curves in. So as subtle as that curve is, it still just brings everything forward really nicely and generally makes the whole user experience again feel that bit more futuristic. So I love tech because tech's cool, but very little mobile phone tech has been getting me really excited lately, and this, in using it day to day, has been giving me those kind of like daily joys that I've been looking for from my flagship phone for a very long time. So instantly there, between the fact that that curved screen doesn't really hamper things when it comes to gaming or general user interface interaction beyond what I already spoke about, it speaks volumes of this. Speaking of that edge, now that we've covered gaming and general multimedia performance, it works in a slightly different way. Now, there is no reason Samsung couldn't implement this on a regular Samsung Galaxy S6, so that's not a massive deal, but you can swipe in to quickly access various phone numbers or contacts. So you can see I have a contact there, I have my home contact, and what'll happen is if the device is upside down, my home contact will shine blue on the surface below. This worked relatively well. It wasn't mind-blowing, but largely based on the fact that if it's bright, you won't see the color that's being shone because the table will probably be lighter and brighter than the light coming from the device itself. So you won't always know who's calling, but it'll be a blue light if it's home, a green light if it's my mum, for example, a red light if it's my brother, whatever. So that's neat in itself. The fact you also have quick access to 5-key contacts is something that is really useful. Used that all the time, and wouldn't mind if that was just on every Samsung device going forward, to be honest. One other thing that the screen can do is, if we were to rub it like a lamp, just like on the Samsung Galaxy Note Edge, if it's the right way, that can kind of give you a peek as to what the weather is, what the time is, and what the date is, as well as your battery percentage. And battery is something that we will come on to. Don't worry, we'll give you a very first impression on that. As far as the performance goes, generally from that Exynos octa-core chipset, 64-bit, 3 gig of RAM, really awesome stuff. Can't complain in any way. Between the gaming right through to the user interface performance, like we said, TouchWiz just isn't as bloated as it once was, and everything feels like it runs very smoothly, but it has only been 24 hours. You guys are gonna get this for something like 24 months, so please don't take this as a final word. Check back to the review, either mine next week or other people who've done really thorough, in-depth, long-term reviews. What else is there to talk about? Well, there is obviously that battery, and it is a 2600 milliamp cell in the S6 Edge and a 2550 milliamp cell, I think it is, in the S6. 2600 milliamps left us thinking this will be terrible. And yeah, it's not the best battery out there. It'll last a day. It'll last actually around the same time as an HTC One M9, maybe a teeny tiny bit more, weirdly, even though it's got a more high resolution screen. It's also a slightly larger screen too. But what you do get with this is an Exynos processor, so it is a different chipset to the Snapdragon 810, possibly more efficient. What you also have with this is wireless charging out of the box. So you have a few other charging solutions, and it'll also charge up the first 50% of battery faster than the HTC One M9. So it'll be interesting. What we want to do before we do end up reviewing it is get this down to zero, get the One M9 down to zero, and see how long it takes to fully charge both. But ultimately, we're really impressed by the battery, just because it isn't as terrible as we thought it would be. Now, we know that's not a great grounding, and don't expect wildly good battery life from this, but it isn't too bad. As far as other things in terms of connections go, obviously this has things like Bluetooth 4.0, and we've had it connected to a wearable for a few hours and didn't seem to kill things too much. You also have 4G, Cat 6 4G. We have an EE SIM card in there, or we had one, and we were using it in central London, found it got decent upload speeds. Again, nothing mind-blowing, but I think the main things I've covered in the first part of this review, or this 24-hour review, will give you an idea as to how good this device is. Also, check out our Samsung Galaxy S6 video sample. The optical image stabilization on this works so well in video. It really is the first time an Android device has absolutely killed it. The sound recording isn't too bad either. The only thing we will say, that speaker nice and loud, but it isn't a patch on the One M9 because it is at the base and really easy to cover up. So just to give you a quick example as to how easy it is to cover up, let me open up Final Fantasy and it'll start playing standard Final Fantasy tune, and I'll get that on higher volume. Hear that? Really bad. Fortunately, when you're gaming, you don't cover it up, and you're probably not going to game with it this way, but if you were gonna, you'd be covering it up pretty easily. But again, like I said, that's pretty much the main area this device gripes out. There's no expandable memory. It's available in 64 gig, which is what we have here, 32 128. There's only 23 or so gig available if you get the 32 gig variant, so you'll want the 64 or 128 gig version. You will be paying more than any other device out there, but given how ridiculously futuristic this looks, given how comfortable it is to use, despite the fact it's shaped like this, given how smooth the performance is only after 24 hours admittedly, and given how impressed we are with the camera, this could well be the best phone ever made. Could be. Check out our full review in the coming week to see if it is. And yeah, really impressed. If you've got any questions about the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge, make sure you fire them in the comments section below. And if you like this video, click that like button. If you like BTech in general, please click subscribe. It helps us out massively if you guys subscribe to us, because it means we get cool stuff like this in even earlier. Thanks for watching BTech.